Zhijie was 40 years old when he attended his high school reunion. It had been over 20 years since he last saw his classmates. As he walked into the venue, he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The room was filled with familiar faces, now older but still recognizable. Zhijie looked around and saw his old friends chatting and laughing. He joined a group and started catching up. "Hey, Zhijie. Long time no see," said Mark, his old classmate. "What have you been up to?" Zhijie smiled and was about to answer when Sarah, who used to sit behind him, chimed in. "I bet you're wondering about all of us too. I became an accountant, just like I always wanted." "That's great, Sarah," Zhijie replied. "How about you, Mark?" "I'm a lawyer now," Mark said proudly. "It was tough, but I made it." As they continued talking, Zhijie learned about the different paths his classmates had taken. Some inherited family businesses, some became car salesmen, others worked as technicians in electronics factories. Then, someone asked Zhijie about his job. He hesitated for a moment, then said, "Well, I sell drinks now." "Oh, that's nice," Sarah said, trying to be polite. "How many shops do you have?" Zhijie took a deep breath and answered, "Actually, I own the largest drink shop chain in Taiwan. We have over 900 stores now." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Zhijie in disbelief. They remembered him as the student who always finished last in class. How could he now be such a successful businessman? "Zhijie, that's amazing," Mark exclaimed. "How did you do it?" Others gathered around, eager to hear his story. Zhijie smiled and began to explain. "Well, it all started because I love drinks," he said. "But I didn't like the taste of the handshaken drinks in the market. So I decided to create my own unique flavors." "But how did you go from making drinks to owning 900 stores?" someone asked. Zhijie continued, "I spent 6 months developing new drinks. I started with a small stand, and people loved my drinks. Then I created more flavors and slowly opened more shops. It just grew from there." "But weren't you afraid of failing?" Sarah asked. "I mean, starting a business is risky, especially in such a competitive market." Zhijie shook his head. "That's the thing. I never thought about failing before I started. I just focused on doing what I loved and kept going." "What's your secret?" Mark asked. "There must be something special you did." Zhijie thought for a moment and said, "You know, there's no real secret. I just followed the just do it mindset. I had an idea, and I pursued it. I didn't overthink things or worry too much about what could go wrong." He paused and then added, "I've seen many people who want to start a business, but they never do. They think too much about all the things that could go wrong. They're afraid of this and that, and in the end, they never take action." The room was quiet as everyone listened intently. "The problem is," Zhijie continued, "people often think too much and do too little. They get stuck in their heads and never move forward." His words seemed to strike a chord with many of his classmates. Some nodded in agreement, while others looked deep in thought. "But Zhijie," Sarah said, "weren't you worried about competition or running out of money?" "Of course, those thoughts crossed my mind," Zhijie admitted. "But I didn't let them stop me. I focused on making great drinks and providing good service. The rest fell into place." As the reunion continued, many of Zhijie's classmates approached him to ask for advice or share their own business ideas. He listened patiently and encouraged them all. At the end of the night, as people were saying their goodbyes, Mark pulled Zhijie aside. "You know, Zhijie," he said, "your story has really inspired me. I've always had this idea for a legal app, but I've been too scared to try. Maybe it's time I just do it." Zhijie smiled and patted his friend on the shoulder. "That's the spirit, Mark. Remember, it's better to try and learn than to always wonder what if." As Zhijie left the reunion, he felt a sense of satisfaction. Not just because of his own success, but because he might have inspired others to pursue their dreams. The moral of Zhijie's story is clear. Success doesn't always come to those who are the smartest or most talented. Sometimes it comes to those who are brave enough to take action, persistent enough to keep going, and focused enough to ignore the doubts and fears that hold many people back. In life, it's often better to do more and think less, to take that first step and learn along the way, rather than being paralyzed by overthinking and fear of failure.
单字 High school reunion 高中同学会 Noun An organized social event for a group of people who went to a high school at the same time. Venue.
会场
Noun. The place where a public event or meeting happens. Catch up.
聊天叙旧
To catch up typically means to spend time talking to someone you haven't seen in a while, especially to learn about what they have been doing recently. Long time no see. 好久不见 Idiom. Said when you meet someone who you haven't seen for a long period of time. Chime in.
插话通常表示赞同附和
Phrasal verb. To interrupt or speak in a conversation, usually to agree with what has been said. Chime.
铃或钟敲鸣响
Verb. Of bells. To make a clear ringing sound. Accountant. 会计师 Noun. Someone who keeps or examines the records of money received, paid, and owed by a company or person. Inherit.
继承
Verb. To receive money, a house, etc. from someone after they have died. Inherit the family business.
继承家族事业
Handshake and drink.
手摇饮料
Risky.
有风险的
Adjective. Involving the possibility of something bad happening. Intently.
专注的
Adverb. In a way that gives all your attention to something. Strike a chord.
引起共鸣
Idiom. If something strikes a chord, it causes people to approve of it or agree with it. Legal.
法律的法律方面的
Adjective. Connected with the law. That's the spirit.
用于表示赞同或鼓励这就对了就应该这样
Used to approve or encourage someone's positive attitude equals way of thinking or action. Paralyze.
使丧失活动力使不能正常运作
Verb. To cause a person, group, or organization to stop working or acting normally. Fall into place.
有条不紊地进行按部就班
Idiom. When things fall into place, they happen in a satisfactory way, without problems.